like the ancillary, like outer bands of it or whatever, but it's starting to definitely get really windy and stormy and that sort of thing. So I'm more worried about like losing power. Oh,
Yeah.
hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So Ron had me order some things like canned goods and things like that just in case. But anyway, so I'm Miltoning right now.
Hunkering down from Milton. You're going to get blown by Milton.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is it almost feels like when you are in New York and you prepare for like blizzard snow days, like, because I know Hurricane Sandy came through there and that sort of thing, but like, I never lived through a hurricane or anything like that in New York. It was mostly like, hey, hunker down if there's a blizzard coming. And it always ends up, I think I've been through one true blizzard in New York City. I think that like every time like that they threatened that it was going to happen, it would snow like 2 inches or something like that, and be like
Yeah.
totally a bummer. But it would be a reason to not go to work.
Yeah, I love that. I
I
love
know.
reasons to not. I love reasons to not go to work.
Yeah, same,
I
same.
want
How
to
are
do that.
you?
Oh, I'm fine. I've just been working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, what a way to make a living.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Are you prepared? So you had an extra day because I left my thing. So I hope that this is okay. we may
Yeah.
we may have a week of, I don't know. I don't know if you can meet tomorrow night, but it would be pretty tight for me. But I can meet even like and do my story so we don't have a week off or whatever. I can make
Well,
it happen.
it's nice. Now, at your age, you're still keeping it so tight. So this is good. I can do it tomorrow night. Do you want to do a twofer? Like a double header? Do you want to try and do it tonight, or do you want to wait until tomorrow?
I have to wait until tomorrow. I'm not prepared, and I'm worried that I'm going to lose internet at some point too. But I do have backup. But yeah, let's try to do it tomorrow night for sure.
Okay, you might get sucked off by Milton. Why don't I intro us?
Okay.
Welcome to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, clearly, the dark and the disgraceful in our unmentionables, as you can see from this section right up here if you're watching. That's right, we've slipped into something more comfortable, and listeners, we hope that you have too. Whatever that means for you. Lingerie, pajama pants, cock rings, whatever. Whatever you want to, whatever makes you feel like you.
Yes.
We won't judge openly. And I am Blake Roberts.
And I'm Amanda Kamada, and I am going to go ahead and apologize in advance if you hear Milton in the background, but there is quite a bit of wind and rain going on right now in the Miami area. So I can't honestly imagine what it must be like around Tampa and those areas right now. Like, I think it would be probably pretty scary because I actually think quite a few people came down here, evacuated to this area because going north they were running out of gas and stuff like that, because I think everyone just tends to head north like to Georgia
Yeah.
area and stuff like that rather than go south. So they were actually telling people today to go down to Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, that sort of thing, because we actually have petroleum gas and those sorts of things. So
And
yeah.
really, more people should go down.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah. Come down to the the party side of Florida.
the tip.
That come to the tip of Florida.
Go down on the tip.
Yes,
Well, we're off to a great start here.
we are. I can't wait to hear your story tonight because I honestly have no idea what we are getting into this evening.
So, our second edition of Notorious, a glimpse into the dark side of fame. Or second or third?
Third, actually.
Third, because I
Yeah.
forgot I did Rick James. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just going to be diving right into the Hollywood squares, Center Square, Paul Lynde.
Oh, I love this.
Do you know much about Paul Lynde?
I don't know a lot about Paul Lynde, but I know a lot about Hollywood Squares, and I used to watch it religiously whenever I was a child. So I love that you picked Hollywood Squares, and yeah, I want to know everything about it.
So I think the hints I gave you were square, obviously center square,
Mm,
balcony, and comedy.
yes,
Paul Lynde's hilarious. He's just a quippy old queen.
yes.
But balcony is there's sort of like a mysterious death in there, which we'll be covering a little bit on this our podcast of Forbidden. Paul Lynde's life was marked by deep personal challenges that would profoundly shape his career and legacy. Born on June 13th, 1926 in Mount Vernon, Ohio, he grew up in a small town where he struggled with his weight, frequently facing bullying and teasing. So he put on a lot of weight in his early years. He had a surgery and was in bed for like a year, which
Holy
sounds
shit.
fabulous.
Yeah, in a way it does. What kind of surgery required you to be in bed for a year? That's crazy.
I wrote this a while back, and I can't remember if I get to it or not, so we'll
Y-
find out. Or
Yeah,
maybe we won't.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so he was in bed for a long time. He put on a lot of weight, and then he dealt with bullying because of that. And his way, as was the way with many young gay men back then, and probably still now, certainly in my childhood, you just have to get a thick skin and you got to be real sharp and witty. You have to find ways to like defuse situations before they fly at your face like fists.
Yeah.
So that's what Paul Lynde did. Those early experiences fueled lifelong insecurities, particularly about his self-image. Adding to this, Lynde realized he was gay at a young age, a difficult truth to navigate in the conservative environment of the 1930s and 40s, and especially in Ohio.
Yeah. That's a
Uh,
long time ago in a tiny place.
yeah,
Yeah.
family dynamics only worsened his sense of inadequacy. Lynde often felt overshadowed by his siblings who seemed to embody the talents or qualities that he lacked. His brothers fit neatly into roles: the baby of the family, the athlete, and the intellectual. By contrast, Lynde perceived himself as the nothing, the quote, nothing of the family, which is a horrible way to think about yourself.
Yeah, no doubt.
And obviously, that feeling deeply impacted his self esteem. Despite those struggles, Lynde found refuge in performance. His ability to make people laugh became a shield, protecting him from the emotional pain he carried. After high school, he channeled this talent into a career in acting, studying speech and drama at Northwestern University, which is somewhere in the Northwest, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Northwestern University? No, I think that actually that's in Chicago and it's a really good school.
Oh, I've heard of it before.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
didn't know where it was.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why it's called Northwestern though, because it has nothing to do with the Northwest at all.
A bit of a misnomer and
Yes.
probably a missed opportunity,
Right.
but I digress. His time at Northwestern laid the groundwork for the comedic brilliance that would define his career. Lynde's rise to fame was slow but steady. After moving to New York, he landed his first big break in New Faces of 1952, a Broadway revue that introduced his signature style to audiences. His standout performance in the show, particularly the comic number, The Trip of the Month. We all know it. Sing along. Just kidding. I've never heard of it before. But
Neither.
it earned him critical praise, leading to a film adaptation in 1954. This success opened doors for him in both theater and television. Then in 1960, Lynde hit his stride with his role as Harry McAfee in Bye Bye Birdie on Broadway. His portrayal of the flustered, exasperated father struck a chord with audiences, and his delivery of the famous line, "Kids, I don't know what's wrong with the kids these days." It became iconic, and it also earned him the role in the 1963 film adaptation, solidifying his place as a comedic force. So Because of that role, he made the transition into film and TV. He made numerous guest appearances on popular sitcoms such as The Munsters, The Phil Silvers Show, everyone's favorite, the good old Phil Silvers
The
Show.
Phil Silvers Show.
Do you remember it?
No, I
Never
don't.
heard
I
of it.
remember the Munsters.
The Munsters, absolutely, and The Flying Nun. However, it was his portrayal of Uncle Arthur on Bewitched that truly endeared him to audiences. Do you remember this?
I loved Bewitched, and I loved Uncle Arthur. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. In fact, I used to get up at every morning at like 7 a.m. and watch Bewitched on TBS. In the mornings, I had like a whole, which I can get into in the talk of shame, but I had a whole list of things that I watched in the mornings in my summers. And Bewitched was on, I recall, at 7 a.m. because it was on before I Dream of Jeannie.
I remember that. I
No,
remember watching those back to back.
yeah, yeah.
So he only appeared in 11 episodes of that show.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But his character, known for his magical pranks and sharp comebacks, became a fan favorite. Lynde's career seemed poised for even greater heights when he was cast in the pilot for Sedgwick Hawk Styles' Prince of Danger in 1966. The show, a Victorian detective spoof, promised to make him a leading television star. However, a personal scandal involving the tragic death of James Bing Davidson, a 24-year-old actor, derailed these plans. James Bing Davidson is really cute. I'll put up a photo of him.
Oh,
People can see him. Yeah, he was cute. So
I like his name.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Bing is short for like Bingham or something like that. His middle name was something like that, and they called him Bing.
Mm-hmm.
It's adorable. So Davidson's death, which occurred in 1965, was a significant turning point in Lynde's career. The two men had met at a gay bar in San Francisco while Lynde was in town promoting the new pilot. And after an evening of drinking, they returned to Lynde's suite at the Sir Francis Drake Hotel. According to reports, Davidson boasted while intoxicating and probably also intoxicated, that he could do 100 chin-ups. When Lynde expressed doubt, Davidson attempted to prove himself. Can you see where this is going?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was no proper space in the hotel room for this challenge, so Davidson moved out onto the fire escape and attempted to do chin-ups there. So he lost his grip and fell to his death.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is horrible and terrifying. And
Yeah.
just, yeah.
From both sides. Like, obviously, if it's you falling, like,
Yeah.
that's horrifying. But also watching that
Watching
happen
that
to someone.
happen. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, probably Paul Lynde thought he was going to get lucky that night with this cute, younger guy.
Yeah. And how sad that this guy passed away when he was young and cute.
I know. Yeah, he didn't even get to join the 27 Club. So, panic-stricken, Lynde immediately contacted his friend and director, William Asher, who was backing his new sitcom project. Lynde's primary concern, aside from personal trauma of the incident, was the potential damage it could do to his career, particularly as his homosexuality was not widely acknowledged in the public eye. Asher, in turn, reached out to the network, and an investigation ensued. So have you ever heard of this show? Sedgwick Hawk Styles' Prince of Danger?
Mm-mm.
It's because it didn't get picked up.
Ah.
Yeah. Davidson's death was ruled an accident, but the incident had lasting consequences for Lynde. ABC ultimately canceled the pilot or the project, halting Lynde's career trajectory at a critical moment. The fallout from Davidson's death exacerbated Lynde's struggles with alcohol and his growing sense of isolation. And on that note, I'm going to just have a little sip of wine here.
What a horrible thing to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Despite the setback, Lynde remained a fixture on American television, particularly through his recurring role as a center square on Hollywood Squares, where he became a household name. Known for his quick wit and risque humor, Lynde's one-liners often skirted the boundaries of what was acceptable on family television, making him both beloved and controversial, which are just two of my favorite things.
Yes.
His unique brand of humor, mixing biting sarcasm with campy flamboyance, made him a standout on the show, where he remained a central figure for over a decade. So he was on that show for a minute.
Yeah. That
And that's
show was
what,
on for a minute.
yeah, and it's what I know him from, like that and Bewitched, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, Lynde's professional success could not fully mask his personal demons. His alcoholism worsened over time, and he developed a reputation for being a, quote, vicious drunk.
Oh.
His cutting humor, which made him a star on screen, often turned cruel and mean-spirited in private, alienating friends and colleagues alike. His erratic behavior, fueled by alcohol, led to several incidents where he lashed out, including a notorious comment to actress Lana Turner, in which he drunkenly insinuated she was responsible for her mobster boyfriend's murder.
Oh.
His alcohol-fueled rants and unpredictable actions began to take a toll on his career, as he became increasingly unreliable and difficult to work with. So he was like, they basically stopped inviting him. When I say they, I mean like Hollywood. Like people in Hollywood stopped inviting him to parties and to events because he was so unpredictable,
Right.
and like anything was fair game with him. Like,
So it sounds like he was probably a functioning alcoholic for a while and then he just kind of went off the rails.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Lynde's sexuality, while widely known within Hollywood, was kept largely out of the public eye, particularly given the conservative attitudes of the time. While he never publicly came out, his humor often hinted at his identity. And if you've watched Hollywood Squares, you know this. His one-liners that he would deliver were hilarious. And
Yeah.
there are YouTube clips, it's just like compilations of Paul Lynde, and I highly recommend that you go spend some time there.
I feel like in the 80s, 90s, like Jim J. Bullock kind of followed up on his, like, on Hollywood Squares as his, like, replacement because he was kind of the gay guy with one-liners who always, like, had zingers and you knew he was gay and he was really hot,
Yeah.
but nobody, like, everyone just loved him. But it was kind of
Yeah.
just, yeah, yeah.
So even in private, Lynde struggled with intimacy, preferring casual encounters with hustlers and fans to avoid deeper emotional connections. Can you hear this dog
Hmm.
ringing this bell?
Hmm.
Do you want to snap that pause button for just a moment?
Sure.
Naughty girl.
Are back.
So, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by my dog. Yeah, so he liked to hook up with people he knew were not gonna. He was like above them professionally, like in his career, and
Mhm.
probably age as well. So it was easy for him to like stay sort of disconnected. So the detachment may have been a product of the era as he navigated the pressures of maintaining a public career in an industry that was not accepting of openly gay men. Tragically, Paul Lynde's personal struggles, good lord, I'm talking about something tragic and I said struggles. Tragically, Paul Lynde's personal struggles came to an end. Good lord, I'm spiraling out of control. When he passed away from a heart attack in 1982 at the age of 55.
That's
His
so young.
It is young, and it's also the year I was born.
Yeah.
His death marked the conclusion of a career that, while celebrated, was overshadowed by personal demons and a sense of unfulfilled potential. Despite these challenges, Lynde left behind a lasting legacy in American comedy. His sharp wit and singular comedic style, especially in shows like Hollywood Squares and Bewitched, continue to be appreciated by fans such as myself today. Lynde's life was a study in contrast, an enormously talented comedian who brought joy to millions, but who also struggled with deep personal pain. His ability to transform his insecurities into laughter ensured his place in television history, even as his private battles reflected the immense pressures faced by many closeted performers of his era. And I just want to end with one recommendation for everyone. which is to go watch the Paul Lynde Halloween special because it's October and it's one of the campiest, worst shows I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's got Betty White, it's got Donnie and Marie Osmond, it's got Florence Henderson. It's like it's obviously like mid, I think 1976.
I love that time though, because that's when they did have all those campy like specials and stuff that you could, watch on TV. And they all had all of those actors of the time that were like really popular, but they would do these like really weird specials.
Yeah, and it was like the 70s, so it's like musical. It's like the same time as like the Osmond show and Cher, Sonny and Cher. Was it just Cher?
I think it was both.
Yeah, I think it
Actually,
was
they may have been more in the 60s or early 70s, I can't remember, but
the
either
Cher
way,
show.
even the freaking Brady Bunch kids had a variety show back
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, it was just, like, so full of and I loved all of the game shows and stuff back then,
Mm-hmm.
that all of these, like Betty White, B. Arthur, all of these people would always, be on these game shows. Password was so good, like
Mm-hmm.
those, shows. I love watching old game shows like on Game Show Network and that sort of thing. I don't know if you do that. Like sometimes I even on Pluto will watch like old is rights, like the
I
Bob
was just
Barker
gonna say
area
that was my
era.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Do
Yeah,
you know
I
I actually
love.
went to the Price is Right? That was when I moved to Las Vegas, that was the first thing that I wanted to do was go to the Price is Right, and I drove to LA and went to the Price is Right, and I did not make it on Contestants Row. I was so pissed off,
But you
but
got to
I
see
was
Bob
there during
Barker?
the Barker era. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I
Yeah, I
love
went
that.
during the Barker era. It was like so it must have been like 1999 when I went. So that was, he was obviously a little older then, but yes, I actually went to a live taping of The Price is Right and saw Bob Barker, which I
That's
loved.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you should watch that special. It's hard for me. I try to watch it every year and I make it like halfway through. It's
Is that
rough,
bad?
but I feel like I need to be like drunker or something
Mhm.
before I start watching it. But there's like, if you picture it, like those variety shows of that era, super flamboyant, sort of like pre-disco, but like heading toward disco, like flashy costumes and ridiculous music. But then also one of the guest bands on his Halloween special was Kiss.
What?
Yeah,
That's so odd. That seems so misplaced.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all over the place. It's got the oh, I can't think of her name. She played the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz. She's on the show, but it's like him going through all of these different scenarios and he's like wearing different costumes in different eras. It's over the top. Like way too far over the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah. It's so
But
interesting because I always thought that he was like really handsome. And he's one of those people, which I think a lot of people were at that time. Like, I feel like he always looked like he was in his 50s, if that
yeah,
makes sense. Like I feel like Betty White always looked like she was like in her 40s, or, like everyone aged so quickly back then, but he had just like a very handsome, vibe to him and that sort of thing. But to find out that he was only 55 when he passed away, that just especially for me being like I'm turning 48 in a couple of week or a week, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, that sounds so young now." Like
yeah,
55 is like nothing.
yeah. It's super young for us.
Yeah. 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 But that whole story about the guy who was on the balcony, it almost makes me like I had an instance this weekend when I was staying at a friend's Bo. I was staying at his apartment this weekend in New York City, and I looked out at the fire escape, and I have walked out onto fire escapes so many times when I've been drunk, and I look at how precarious they are because I would go outside to like smoke a cigarette or something on the balcony, like on
Hmm.
the fire escape or
You weren't
something like
doing
that.
chin-ups?
No, I wasn't doing chin-ups, thank God. So I survived. But just looking at the fire escape, like
Mhm.
it gives me angina because like I think about how many times like I drunkenly like went onto a fire escape or to a rooftop deck or something like that, and how easily I could have fallen off of something like that, but wasn't doing chin-ups for sure.
Yeah. One of my favorite things from Paul Lynde was, I think it was like in the 70s, some fan came up to him, and I'm sure this is like in middle America somewhere. A fan asked him why he never married. And his response, which I'm sure you can imagine, was this like super quick. He said, "Do you live in a cave?"
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Like he was as open as he could be at that time. But yeah, I love Paul Lynde.
yeah, yeah.
He cracks me up.
Did he have any like, did they get into any, like, specific like, it sounded like
STDs?
no, that did he have any specific lovers that would have been interesting, or did he truly just kinda keep it on the down low, like, and, kind of literally, like, just, had sex with fans or whomever, so that it wasn't, like, a thing? It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, from what I gathered, no, there was never any. He never had relationships with anyone who was on equal or greater footing
Mhm.
than him.
Right, right.
And I think that was twofold. I think part of it was to sort of maintain his cover, like to stay under wraps. But I think he also didn't like being with people who would make him. He wanted to feel better than the person he was with. I think
Right.
really is what that's about,
Yeah, yeah.
which I can get behind,
Yeah, I totally understand
or I
that.
can get in front of it. It depends on what I'm feeling that day, what my mood is.
Oh my god. Well, this was an actually really interesting story because I definitely know Paul Lynde from Hollywood Squares. Big fan of Hollywood Squares, and like I said, all of the, you know, back in the day, like all of that stuff was just so fun and inappropriate too. Like it's so funny because like people are so, quick to cancel culture and all this kind of stuff right now. And it's actually pretty unbelievable when you go back and, watch episodes of old game shows and that sort of thing and kind of see how irreverent a lot of it was, which is kind of funny because I feel like everyone thinks that like everyone was like really prudish and everything back then, but like in reality, they weren't. They were like smoking on TV. They were obviously half of them were drunk,
They
or
were drinking
probably,
while pregnant.
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's why I always loved how Mad Men like portrayed that era because
Mhm.
it
It
was
was
so
real.
it was so real. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The people smoking and drinking while they're pregnant, like just drinking and driving, all of these things that people used to do. And like, I looked at like people like my grandparents and I'm like, oh, there's no way that they ever could have done that. But they probably did, and our
Yeah.
parents probably did, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Well, let me tell you, if you would like to learn more about Paul Lynde, here's my sources.
Oh, yes.
So I had an article from womansworld.com, an article from rare.us, which is like an entertainment spot. And that was specifically about Paul Lynde and the James Davidson death. Popmatters.com. And that article is called Center Square Paul Lynde. And then there's a really great, and this is sort of where I spent a lot of my time, was there's a YouTube video by Matt Baum called Paul Lynde, the Gay Uncle at the Center of Halloween's Strangest Disco, which spends a little more time going into that Halloween special, but it sort of goes through the full Paul Lynde story too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but he didn't do it with his shirt off, so
Yeah.
here's my nipples. So
Yeah, there you
these
go.
clavicles.
You're welcome.
These controversial clavicles, which I've gotten hate mail about.
Yes, so many times. Actually, you haven't gotten it that many, have you?
It was just once, but that was enough. It
Yeah,
devastated me.
yeah, that's enough. Yeah.
Drove my self-esteem into the ground, just like Paul Lynde, and I've started drinking more because of these beautiful clavicles.
Yeah, that everyone's just jealous of, by the way.
Dangerous, beautiful clavicles.
Well, that was an amazing story. Like one that I honestly had no idea you were going to pull out at all. Like, I mean, that was like completely unexpected and someone that like I really, really enjoyed watching. And I totally had forgotten about the whole Bewitched thing,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's amazing. And yeah, that was actually really great.
Thank you. I had a couple of others in mind, and it was literally on our last call when you were asking for hints, and so I just blurted them out. I have another story that I might do another time. But yeah, thank you for listening, Amanda.
Yes. Well, if anyone wants to continue listening and watching, they can do that at the Forbidden Pod on YouTube. Watch us on YouTube. I think that they're really fun, actually. I think
If we
I've
do say so ourselves.
Yes, I've been enjoying watching them on YouTube, and I think that others are doing so as well. But you can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We would love to hear any and all feedback from you. Please rate and review us. I actually saw that someone put great topic on our last episode on YouTube.
Oh,
So thank
really?
you. Yes, thank you, listener, for giving us some feedback. They enjoyed the Marilyn Monroe one, so that was actually nice to hear. But you can also write into us at hello@theforbiddenpod.com if you don't want to rate and review us online.
But also, please do.
Yeah, but also, like, definitely do. And follow us on social. We are on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at The Forbidden Pod. And what else? Oh, yes, our website. So follow us on our website. I actually am in trouble because I didn't get things up on our website for our last one. So I'm delayed a little bit, but everything else.
Fire.
I've been traveling. I've had a lot of things going on. I'm kind of like you. I all of a sudden have all this travel ahead of me and behind me. So do keep up with us on www.theforbiddenpod.com.
You can see what's below the clavicles.
Yes, exactly. Lots of fun stuff. So, Blake, that was awesome. Thank you.
And thank you.
And listeners, as always, we'd like to
Thank you.
you.